Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and if you're new to the channel then you are very welcome. Now today we are going to visit a different garden, a garden over in County Kildare. This is a 3-acre garden that is owned by Paula Byrne. It's called Kilgar Gardens, a fantastic place, very much built along classical lines. And oh my goodness, wait until you see the roses. It's been a very long time since I last saw roses grown as beautifully as these ones. We're in for a hedonistic treat today in Kilgar Gardens, which I hope you'll enjoy just as much as I do. Come on, let's go and visit. Our visit to this garden begins here with a grassy path surrounded by soft planting. There's something about a curved path when you just can't quite see what's at the very end of it that just makes you want to explore further. The colour palette of the plants is quite muted, pastel mostly, and we can see the blues, pinks and creams of geranium, salvia, nautia and achillea gently billowing on either side of the path. Nestled on one side of the path, we find a pretty summer house surrounded with old-fashioned ornaments. This will be one of several such houses dotted around the garden. And now we cross over to the other side of the path, past the roses. Don't worry, there'll be lots more of those soon. To a second wooden building on the other side. This one is a potting shed. And did you ever see such an idyllic potting shed in your whole life? Now we move into a different section of the garden, a section flanked by privet trees clipped into neat lollipop shapes and contrasted by the frothy looseness of purple nepeta. The planting is very stylish and restrained. There are silver-leafed artichokes here too. And now, a final glance back at the curved path that led us here before we move on to other things. The Mediterranean garden features gravel paths and parterres surrounding more colourful planting. There are numerous pots too, some terracotta and some metal. They feature a fine collection of house leeks and other succulents. My favourite bit here is the grasses, some planted directly in the gravel. They really soften the whole area and provide movement in what might otherwise be a very sculptural space. It's time for a little break now here among the grasses. This garden visiting can be exhausting and I feel like some tea and scones. Visitors to this beautiful garden can enjoy a variety of tasty home bakes in the garden setting. Our next port of call is the rose garden. And before we go in, I want to just pause and absorb what I'm seeing. This scene right here is the epitome of the classic rose garden, straight out of a Victorian novel. There are echoes of this style of gardening in many modern designs, but mostly our familiarity is with run-down, neglected gardens that are a mere shadow of their former glory. This is far from the case here at Kilgar Gardens, where maintenance is perfection and the roses will make you resolve to grow them at home yourself. So I asked Paula for some tips and tricks to growing roses, and her advice is that feeding is key. Paula feeds her roses with well-rotted horse manure, which is actually the best gift anyone can give any garden. But if you can't get your hands on manure, then you need to feed your roses with something else in spring, chicken pellets or something. Liquid fertiliser really isn't sufficient as the only fertiliser for your roses. Paula also says that good air circulation around her rose bushes is important. And actually, we can see that none of these bushes are jammed into a space that's too crammed. Each has left the space to show off its natural elegance and spread its branches. All of Paula's roses are absolutely fabulous, but if I had to pick a favourite, I think I'd have to go with this pink beauty called Wisley. Another classic feature we can see as a backdrop to the roses is this row of pleached lime trees. Pleaching is a technique whereby the lower branches are removed from the tree and the upper branches are trained via wires to join up with the adjacent trees. The effect is that of a hedge on stilts. The technique requires time and lots of pruning and is seldom seen nowadays, so it's lovely to see it used so well here. And now it's time to enter a different garden room, and this one is called the June garden. We're visiting in July, but this room still looks fabulous. We're doing a 360-degree turn here, so I hope I don't make you dizzy. And here we are, back where we started. You'll notice several of the plants we spotted earlier making a new appearance in the June garden, and this is a sign of an active gardener. Paula told me she constantly divides her perennials, making sure she has lots of the plants she really loves. Let's take a little look at this summer house. It's Paula's favourite spot in the whole garden, perfect in summer for looking out at the garden and a comfy shelter in the colder winter months. Ladies' lounge, wild women with wine, where the gossip is always hot, champagne and chocolates always welcome, no men allowed. We pass by another classic feature, a beautiful urn, and now it's time to visit the poppy garden. This garden room was one of the first that Paula designed when she started her garden some 14 years ago. The tiered stone fountain makes a lovely feature. This area is softly planted in the cottage garden style. This clump of giant knapweed looks spectacular, and it's certainly loved by all the bees. In fact, the bees are particularly active in this section of the garden. Two plants that really stand out for me here are the orange trollius and, wait for it, this spectacular rose. This rose is a floribund one called Hot Chocolate, and the colour is just so unusual. It's somewhere between orange, burnt brown and red, and it's completely captivating. And now it's time to pay our final visit in Kilgar Gardens. We need to travel over to the other side of the lawn where Paula's latest project awaits us. This is the Serenity Garden, and it was started just last year, inspired by a visit to France. One historic feature in this section of the garden is the famine pot. In 1846, during the Irish famine, these cast iron pots were used to feed soup to the starving in workhouses and in temporary soup kitchens. The pots were donated from several sources, including the Sultan of Turkey. And now, with a glance back through the rusty steel moon arches of the Serenity Garden, it's time to leave Kilgar. I do hope you've enjoyed your visit, and if you're ever in County Kildare, do make a point of visiting this beautiful garden. Come and smell the roses, eat the cake and listen to the bees. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!